An introduction to failure resolution. What is an RSL failure? What should happen when we have an RSL failure? What is a root cause analysis? What are corrective actions? This video will help you answer these questions. But let us first recap a few concepts from other Affirm training videos. A product, such as a t-shirt, is sold by a brand. This product is made in a factory. The factory gets the materials for the product from material suppliers. Brands need factories and material suppliers to provide a product that meets chemical limits found in the Restricted Substances List, or RSL. To make sure the chemical limits are met, materials and products are tested in a lab. The lab tests the materials and issues a test report. If the materials and products meet the limits, then the result on the test report will be a pass. However, if any substances are found in amounts higher than the RSL limits, then it is considered an RSL failure. An RSL failure can be a serious issue. Remember that the Affirm RSL is based on worldwide chemical restrictions. A failure can mean that the final product cannot be legally shipped to certain countries. Also, importantly, it can mean that the material or the product may be unsafe to workers in the supply chain, the environment, or to the end consumer. All these situations must be avoided, so it is important to react quickly to an RSL failure. This video will explain 5 important steps that should be taken when there is a material or product failure, including quarantine, notification, root cause analysis, corrective action, and monitoring. The first step is to quarantine the affected material. This material must not move further in the manufacturing process. If the material has failed, then it should not be made into a product. If the failure was found in a product, it must not leave the factory or enter a store. Customers should not be able to buy the product. At this stage, you can also ask the lab to confirm the fail result. Many labs will do this automatically, but it is important to be confident about the result. Further testing can also be done at this stage to find out the extent of the failure. Does it apply to just one batch or many? Does it only affect certain colors? The second step is to notify the different stakeholders that the material or product has failed. A factory should communicate to the brand. A material supplier should communicate to the factory. This way, the next partner in the supply chain knows that there is a failure. They also need to quarantine any affected product. The quarantine and notify steps should be done as quickly as possible, ideally within 24 hours. Next, we move to the root cause analysis. This is often the most difficult part of a failure resolution. It is important to do this properly to find out why the failure occurred. There can be many reasons for an RSL failure. However, the most common causes are deliberate use of a restricted chemical, presence of high levels of restricted chemicals as contaminants in formulations, formation of restricted chemicals during processing as a result of chemical reactions, contamination on the production line, and false positives or contamination in laboratories. Additionally, common root causes involve change. For example, there could have been a change in personnel, like a new machine operator, a new process engineer, or a new raw material purchaser. There could also have been a change in the process, like shortened washing time, lowered drying temperature, a manufacturing step was skipped, or the equipment was not cleaned sufficiently after a previous batch. Finally, there could have been a change in raw materials, either because a new supplier was used or because the supplier had a change in their process. This could happen, for example, when a supplier is short of components or chemicals. They might then buy from a non-approved supplier. Finding the true source of the failure can get complicated, but this step needs to be done carefully so that we identify the true root cause. Simply retesting the material does not help to find the true root cause. You can find additional information on root cause analysis and failure examples in the Affirm Chemistry Toolkit. Once the root cause is identified, we need to start corrective actions. A corrective action fixes the root cause of the failure. So, if the root cause was personnel, the corrective action could be training personnel or creating an easy-to-read manual. If the root cause was within the process, then the corrective action should change the process to eliminate the cause of the failure. This could mean changing operating temperatures, times, cycles, improving the cleaning procedure, etc. If the root cause was raw materials, then communication with the raw material supplier is important. All partners in the supply chain should understand that any change in their process can affect the final product. In some cases, you can make sure that upstream raw material suppliers also meet the requirements of the RSL. As you can see, change is very disruptive to a manufacturing process. So, it is important that every change made is carefully looked at and controlled so that there is no unexpected result with the final product. After the corrective action is completed, it is important to send the improved material back to the lab for testing. The material should pass the RSL test before it can be used in production. Some brands need the material to be retested for all chemistries. Other brands only need a retest of the failed chemistry. So please check with the brand what you need to test so that they can accept the improved material. Once there is a pass result, we can consider the corrective action complete. The final step of a good failure resolution is monitoring. Monitoring means checking your personnel, processes, and raw materials to make sure the failure is not repeated. This check can be done by doing further RSL tests 1 month after the corrective action, or testing each of the next few production batches. You could check incoming raw materials to make sure there are no RSL failures. You could make sure there is retraining, so personnel have the correct working knowledge. This is the end of the formal failure resolution process. However, there are a few other important things to remember. Firstly, as global legislation changes, so does the RSL. The AFIRM RSL is updated every year, so it is important to understand how these changes affect your product. Secondly, share the lessons you learned in your failure resolution within your company. This can help your company avoid similar failures in the future. Finally, communication is very important both with your suppliers and your customers. A failure can affect many people in the supply chain with legal, environmental, or human impacts. So it is helpful to have trusted, honest communication. We hope this video has helped you understand what is an RSL failure and why it is important. The steps of a failure resolution including quarantine, notification, root cause analysis, corrective action, and monitoring. Good practices such as checking for changes in the AFIRM RSL, learning from failures, good change control of raw materials, personnel or processes, a systematic check of incoming raw materials, and the importance of communication. Remember, the AFIRM RSL, chemical information sheets, and the chemistry toolkit are free to access and use and are available in 7 languages.